But how is this possible? This was Fenix's first ever launch with no prior history in the flight simulation space. And with their first ever launch, they raised the bar 2 years ago to a level of which all flight simulation add-ons are compared to till this day, for better or worse. Hey guys, Captain Chairbus here, and today I want to talk about the brilliance and genius of Fenix Simulations, how they revolutionized Microsoft Flight Simulator with some very smart business moves, and how they continually raise the bar for third-party aircraft. As a disclaimer at the top, this video is based on my personal opinions and we'll be getting into the business of flight simulation. So if you don't like those things, there's probably 40 billion other videos on YouTube that might interest you more than this one. So as I'm making this video, we're on the precipice of the A319 and A321 expansion packs launching for the Fenix A320. Before we talk about the future of Fenix, let's go back in history and remember how groundbreaking this company was when they launched the A320 on May 19th, 2022, which is over 2 years ago from the time I'm recording this video. When Fenix launched their A320 into the MSFS market, the Leonardo MD-82, Aerosoft CRJ, PMDG 737 had only been on the market for roughly 2 weeks. We were finally beginning to see what MSFS was capable of with high-quality third-party aircraft. But there was something very, very different about Fenix and their launch compared to the other third-party developers. With PMDG, Aerosoft, and Leonardo, we knew the level of quality to expect because we had seen their product lines in other sims like P3D and FSX. With Fenix, however, we had only seen the teaser previews from Fenix and a few streamers streaming the plane, but was the plane really going to live up to the hype and the expectations and be on par with the other great developers in the space? Well, on day one, when I installed the plane on my computer and entered the cockpit, the answer was a resounding yes. The cockpit textures were so detailed you felt like you could feel the individual stitches of fabric in the captain's chair, the incredible cockpit glass effects, the worn and dirty metal and plastic cockpit knobs and switches, the fully modeled cabin, and the feature-complete EFB with fingerprints on the glass, and that was just the interior. But how is this possible? This was Fenix's first ever launch with no prior history in the flight simulation space. And with their first ever launch, they raised the bar 2 years ago to a level of which all flight simulation add-ons are compared to till this day, for better or worse. So again, the big question is, how did Fenix do it? The biggest contributing factor to their success, in my opinion, was their brilliant move to license the avionics suite for the Airbus CEO from ProSim Avionics. If you've been following flight sim development for the last few decades, you'll know that it takes anywhere from 4 to 6 years for developers to write the custom avionics from scratch and integrate them into the aircraft systems. Assuming it costs roughly $175,000 a year to hire a talented full-time developer that can write custom avionics, you're looking at somewhere around $750,000 to $1 million to write custom avionics for a complex airliner like the A320. But let's stop right there. There aren't that many developers who can write custom avionics. They're few and far between. I spoke with many developers at the Flight Sim Expo, and they confirmed that there aren't many individuals who can write custom avionics, and if they can, they're in incredibly high demand and cost a lot to retain on the staff. And you do need to retain them on staff because once a plane is launched, simmers will find bugs that will need to be addressed for 1 to 2 years after a launch or when a new platform like MSFS 2024 is launched. So the costs are quite extravagant to write these avionics and maintain them. On the flip side, there seems to be a good amount of supremely talented 3D modelers in the flight simulation community. A great example of the phenomena I'm describing is Captain Sim. While I personally don't own any of their aircraft, they're known for having outstanding 3D models of popular airliners with little to no custom avionics. So since there's a lack of talented avionics programmers and a relative abundance of 3D modelers and artists, licensing the avionics was an absolute savant move from Fenix. Fenix was able to circumvent most of the 4 to 6 year development time it takes to write custom avionics from scratch and focus their attention on the other parts of the plane. And that is what Fenix decided to do, but they did it in a brilliant and big way, which we'll get into later. So let's go over the business implications of licensing avionics, both the pros and the cons. Let's start with the pros. Number 1, time to market. Fenix shaved off 3 to 4 years of development time by licensing, which allowed them to be first to market, establish their name in the flight sim community, and capture market share and put their stake in the ground before the likes of FS Labs, Aerosoft, and AnyBuilds who have their respective Airbus products coming to market. Number 2, cost efficiency. Like we said earlier, it probably costs somewhere between $750,000 and $1 million to develop complex avionics, which is a huge barrier to entry which Fenix found a way around. Fenix could have charged a premium price for these premium licensed avionics, but since they didn't have to invest all their budget into developing them from scratch, they took a really interesting pricing strategy, which was genius. They decided to charge $49.99 British pounds and hit a very broad market of flight simulators with a surprisingly low price point for such a premium product. Why was it probably smart to do this? Number 1, it was their first ever product, and Fenix wanted to build a reputation, send a strong message, and establish themselves as a premium third-party aircraft maker. Number 2, they wanted to make the purchase a no-brainer for many who flight sim, but may not have the resources to purchase a high-end third-party aircraft priced in the premium range. By pricing around $50, they were able to capture most, if not all, of the market after reviews and videos of the plane went viral on social media. Essentially, it became a no-brainer, must-buy at the price they were asking. The third pro was accuracy. Since the real-world professional sims use these avionics for training real-world pilots, the level of accuracy is greater than anything that can be built from scratch, taking agonizing years to get it anywhere near the level that ProSim has. A good example can be seen on X-Plane with Tullis. Since his avionics are built from scratch, it's taken him about 5 or 6 years of continually updating his avionics to add more features and failures to get it to a professional level of avionics simulation. On the other hand, Fenix has a similar depth of systems and failures right out of the gate with the licensed avionics. With the extra overhead room of not having to go write avionics, they're able to focus their attention to other parts of the plane or develop entirely new planes in their product pipeline that share the same avionics systems. Now let's go over some of the cons. Number 1, Fenix probably doesn't own the intellectual property to the avionics suite and are most likely paying a royalty on the sales to ProSim. This will lower their margins over the long term versus building avionics in-house. Number 2, rigidity of the code. It's likely that Fenix is unable to modify the code in major ways, maybe altering it to other planes in the Airbus fleet like the A330, the A340, and the other wide bodies which have similar avionics. Number 3, they can't address the Xbox market since the avionics run an external program that is only compatible with Windows desktop systems. In comparison, companies like PMDG, who own the code base to their avionics that natively run inside the sim, can get way more sales from the Xbox crowd. So while this licensing approach isn't perfect in every way, it is still an unbelievably effective business move that took the flight simulation community by surprise with an incredible high-fidelity Airbus simulation delivered in record time. What interests me about Fenix's approach as a business case study isn't just the avionics licensing, though. It's their overall strategy to deliver unmatched quality on all aspects of the plane. Let me propose a hypothetical situation. Had Fenix come to market with an okay-looking plane with the incredible systems depth and avionics from ProSim, I think the flight simulation crowd would have been thrilled back in 2022 to have such an in-depth A320 simulation and would have happily paid the £49.99 for the plane. But they took a different approach. They took full advantage of not having to hire expensive avionics developers and plowed those extra resources into the other aspects of the plane. Now, what do I mean by other aspects of the plane? I believe that every plane can be broken down into 7 categories that every developer must address. Number 1 would be the avionics and systems, which they got from ProSim in the licensing agreement. Number 2 would be the 3D model. Number 3 would be the textures. Number 4 are the sounds. Number 5 is the flight model. Number 6 are the effects. And number 7, a bonus category which Fenix revolutionized in MSFS, was the EFB. So let's briefly talk about what Fenix decided to do with each one. Number 2, the 3D model. I think it's safe to say that version 1 of the A320 was jaw-droppingly good and set the bar for every other plane maker in the market. Amir and his team's experience from working in the racing simulator world was evident in the level of detail and attention put into every rivet and component of the plane's interior and exterior. Number 3, textures. The textures on both the interior and exterior, just like the 3D model, set a new standard in the flight simulator industry for realism and attention to detail. Number 4, sounds. It's an eargasm every time you advance the throttles in this plane. and they continually improve the soundscape on a regular basis. Number 5, the flight model. This is subjective because of the wide range of hardware and real pilot feedback, but I do think they've put a tremendous amount of effort into the flight model and continually update it. Number 6, the effects. From the flat buffeting to the way the light reflects off the PBR materials, their effects again set a new level of realism never seen before in a flight simulator. And number 7, the EFB. This was the highest fidelity EFB ever launched for MSFS, and to this day has many functions that other developers are still trying to catch up with. So while Fenix could have delivered a very good plane just with average modeling, they didn't rest on their laurels, and they used their competitive advantage of not having to code avionics to deliver the most complete aircraft ever made in any flight sim to date. So as a side note, I want to be clear. I don't think it was a small task for Fenix to find a way to port the avionics and the systems from ProSim into Microsoft Flight Simulator via the Fenix app, but it was certainly a lot easier than writing hundreds of thousands of lines of code to build the custom avionics for the A320 from scratch. When you take a step back, what Fenix did was revolutionary for aircraft development, and everybody involved won big. ProSim found a creative way to expand into the in-home flight simulation market. Fenix established itself as a powerhouse aircraft developer, and we, the flight simmers, got one of the best products ever made for Flight Simulator at an outrageously reasonable price. It was a win-win-win for everybody. So let's discuss possibilities for the future of Fenix Simulations. By the end of this week, they'll have delivered 3 high-fidelity Airbus aircraft for desktop users of Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is quite remarkable considering that was their first 3 aircraft ever attempted in any sim. They've also proven a new business model in flight sim development by licensing avionics systems from a professional simulator software company. So where do they go from here? I fully anticipate them to rinse and repeat and continue to work their way through the ProSim catalog, which includes the Airbus narrow-body Neos, and then possibly the 737NG and the 737 MAX, which is kind of a bummer because we have great options for the 737 family already between PMDG and eventually iFly is entering the market. Now that they have a proven track record of success though, I'd personally love to see if they can license avionics from other companies who may have a different catalog than ProSim. Maybe like a business jet manufacturer like Gulfstream, or maybe even a Honeywell suite, which is very common in many different business jets. Either way, I'm really excited for anything they decide to build because I know the quality is going to be superb. And building that type of confidence in your brand, especially in the flight sim community, is not easy to do. So kudos to the team at Fenix, and I can't wait to see what they come up with next. So in closing, in full disclosure, I actually did reach out to a mere 6 months before they launched the A320 version 1, and I asked them if they were raising capital since I have a background in software development as well as licensing, and I could tell they were onto something really big. We only had one exchange about it, and I'm glad they didn't end up needing to raise capital from me, and their launch was a massive success. I'm bringing this up because I wanted to let any of the developers out there who are watching, if you're looking at doing a licensing deal similar to what Fenix did with ProSim, and you're looking to raise capital, I'd be more than willing to hear your idea and help out if it makes sense. My greatest hope is that Fenix paved the way for many new developers to license avionics and get products to market faster and at a higher quality than ever before. And also, if you're a developer and you want to talk about the business of flight sim, I'd love to do an interview with you and get to know the great developers behind the hobby of flight simulation. My hope would be to learn more about the people and business of flight simulation and hopefully inspire more people to get into developing for flight simulation so we can ensure the long-term success of the hobby, which is based on the health of the third-party developer scene. So that's it for me. If you made it this far, congratulations, you're a real flight sim nerd, and I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts, so leave them in the comments. For now, that's it for me. Captain Chairbus out.